So we've all heard something like this when we're paying for an item inside of our favorite retail store. Your total today is going to be this. Would you like to receive 10% off your order by signing up for our store credit card? Do you say, sure, I'll open that credit card? Or do you turn it down because obviously there must be some sort of catch to it? Well, what we're gonna talk about in this video is what exactly that catch is, the dangers that store credit cards might have for some people, and whether or not they're even worth it by talking about 7 things to know. So as always, let's just get right into it here. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe down below. But the first thing to know is that above all else, store credit cards reward customer loyalty. Obviously, any company would love repeat business from customers that return to their stores time after time to buy more and more of their products. Now, there's a few ways that companies can get these customers back in the door. First, obviously, the company could just make a product that the customer really values and enjoys that'll make them want to shop there again. But another way that they can get customers back is by offering them some sort of an incentive, like a coupon, a discount, or other type of reward that is only going to be valid at that store. So what many store credit cards do is they'll earn points by shopping for items at that one specific store, and sometimes they'll earn some points by shopping elsewhere too. As an example, you might earn 3% back by shopping at a department store by using their credit card. But in addition to that, you might also earn 2% back at all gas stations and restaurants. However, the catch here is that with many store credit cards, you're not going to be earning regular points or regular cash back that you can use in many different ways. With many store credit cards, you're going to be earning some sort of an in-store point currency that you can only use as a credit towards future purchases at that store. So at first, getting 3% back at your favorite store sounds like a good deal, but really it's only going to incentivize you to return to that store at a future date to make a future purchase, which then will earn you some more points that you can use for another future purchase. And you can see here, the cycle kind of keeps going on and on. Now, I don't want to assume that everyone out there is falling for this simple marketing trick. Most people are aware of this. But what I do want to point out is that if you're not mindful of your spending habits and you don't already have some sort of a pre-planned shopping budget, then it could be very easy for you to spend some unnecessary money that you weren't planning on spending in the first place just because you already earned some points for that store that you then feel you have to use. And that leads me to the second thing to know about store credit cards, and that is that many of them are inherently focused on shopping. Now, I've said this before, but budgeting to spend a little bit of money each month on something like shopping is fine if you're doing it the right way. You've paid off high interest debt, you have some money set aside for an emergency fund, and things like that. But going along with what I just said, the only way to get anything of value from many store credit cards is by shopping there enough. That way you could redeem those in-store point currencies that many of them earn. So for me personally, I don't really spend that much money shopping for new clothes, electronics, or anything else at one specific store. If you know me, I don't really like shopping that much at all. However, I know that some people, like my girlfriend Jackie, they like to responsibly set aside a little bit of money each month to spend on themselves. So if that's the type of person that you are and you know how much money you typically spend each month at a certain store that offers its own store credit card, then the savings that you could realize might be worth it. But for others that might be more easily influenced to spend more money when they see a certain sale or promotion that's offered to many store credit card holders, those types of people might want to be a little bit more cautious about store credit cards. Again, these credit cards exist for a few reasons, and one of those main reasons is to get customers back in the door to spend more money at that store. Now, I always say this here on my channel when I'm talking about credit cards, that one, you need to treat those credit cards like cash and only use them if you already have the money set aside in a separate bank account to pay off that balance. And two, you need to remember to pay off that balance on time and in full every single month. I always stress the importance of becoming aware of your spending habits through budgeting as well, because you need to look at a store credit card like this. If you get 3 to 5% back that you can use towards future purchases at that store, then that's a nice little discount for you if it's a part of your normal spending habits. But if that store credit card causes you to overspend by 3 to 5% or even more, then that is just going to cancel out or potentially outweigh any of the savings offered to you by that credit card. And if you end up carrying a balance after making a purchase, then the amount that you're going to have to pay in interest is going to far outweigh any of that 3 to 5% back that you just earned. I know that everyone is going to be different, but what I want you to do is just take a good deep look at yourself and understand your behaviors when it comes to spending and money, because personal finance really is more behavioral than anything else. Now next, the third thing to know here is straightforward, but it does happen to people more often than you might think, and that is going to be to remember that you have a store credit card if you do decide to open one. So many people will open a store credit card right before they're about to make a purchase when they bring that item up to the cash register and the employee asks them if they want to open that credit card to receive 10% off or 20% off that purchase today. It all varies from store to store. But what happens is someone might think, what's the harm? There's no annual fee and I'll save some money by opening this card right now. And most people will remember that they open that store credit card, then a few days later, they can go back and pay off that balance on time and in full to avoid interest charges, and it's a decent deal for them. However, even the best of us can be forgetful at times. Maybe we have to run around to some other different stores that day to get some other shopping done as well, and it completely slips our mind that we open up this new credit card and we have a balance. And if that goes unpaid and the balance carries over from one credit card statement to the next, that is going to start accruing interest and you're going to miss a payment. The longer you forget, the more missed payments and other things are going to start damaging your credit score and the more interest you'll accrue. So the easy fix here is to obviously not forget to pay off a credit card balance, but again, most people know that. The risk here is the way that many store credit cards are opened kind of impulsively at checkout and without prior planning that can cause even a reasonable person to forget that they might have one. That's why I wanted to mention that here in this video, and it's one of the reasons why I always say no to store credit cards when I'm at checkout, because I'm always going to put in that prior planning and strategically choose my credit cards and apply for them exactly when I want to, not at the last minute before making a purchase. All right, now moving along here to the fourth thing to know, and this could actually put more money back in your pocket that is greater than the discount that you'll get by making that first purchase with a store credit card, and that is that you might be better off getting a regular credit card instead. So back to a simple example, let's say that you're shopping at an electronics store and you're buying a new camera for $500. You bring the camera to the cash register and the employee tells you that you can save 10% on this purchase today if you sign up and use their no annual fee credit card. Now you plan to pay off that balance the next day, so you're coming out ahead no matter what. But I always stress the importance of considering the opportunity cost of getting a potentially better credit card to give you more value. There's a ton of great no annual fee credit cards that offer very good welcome bonuses that are in the range of around $200 after spending $500 on that credit card within the first 3 months or so. That means instead of buying that $500 camera and receiving 10% back or $50 of in-store points with that store credit card, you might be able to find a regular credit card from a major issuer that will give you a welcome bonus for 4 times as much at $200 for the same $500 purchase. And that $200 can be deposited directly into your bank account as cash back that can be used anywhere, not just at that one store. Comparing the return on spend in this example, that store credit card is only going to offer a 10% return, whereas the regular credit card is going to offer a 40% return for much better value. So always consider other options before you open a store credit card, because there might be other regular credit cards out there that have better offers for you. And I'll leave a link down below where you can learn more about some of the best credit card offers out there right now, so go check that out if you're interested. Now that leads me to the fifth thing to know, which is another very easily overlooked thing, and that is the terms and conditions of store credit cards. So many of these store credit cards are going to have slightly worse terms than regular credit cards might have, such as higher APRs and lower credit limits. Of course, how high the APR is really should not matter at all if you're using credit cards the right way. Remember, like I said, only use them if you know that 100% you have enough money already set aside to pay off that balance in full. But the lower credit limits that some store credit cards have is something to think about, because with a lower credit limit, that could potentially give you a greater chance of negatively impacting your credit score due to credit utilization. I've talked about this before in some other videos that I have here on my channel, so go check them out after watching this one, and remember to go subscribe as well. But credit utilization is simply the balance on a credit card divided by the credit limit on that card. Let's say that in the same camera purchase example, that when you were going to buy that camera for $500 and you opened up that store credit card, that you were approved for a credit limit of $750. If your credit card statement closes and then you pay off that balance in full before the payment due date, you will not be charged any interest, which is good. But that $500 balance, along with a credit utilization of 67%, which is simply $500 for the balance divided by the $750 credit limit, that is all going to get reported to the credit bureaus, and that is likely going to negatively impact your credit score. Ideally, we want to keep credit utilization on any one credit card and across all credit cards that you have combined at 10% or below, but really the lower the better. Now maybe instead of getting approved for that store credit card that gave you a credit limit of $750, you could have instead gotten approved for a regular credit card from Chase, Citi, or anyone else like that that would have given you a credit limit of $7,500. That would mean that for the same $500 purchase, your credit utilization would only be 6.7%. I know this is an oversimplified example, and whatever credit limits you might be given on any credit card are going to depend on a number of factors, but still, this is all something to consider here. Do some research on a store credit card that you're interested in versus a regular credit card to see what the data points are for credit limits, approval odds, and other things like that. Also, going along with terms and conditions for store credit cards, be aware that some of these cards cards may have a 0% APR offer that goes on for a few months, but after that period comes to an end, there could be deferred interest that kicks in on unpaid balances. So just look into that and read the fine print for any special promotions or special financing offers going on with store credit cards, because it could cost you more in the long run if you don't pay off your balance by a certain date. In my opinion, with personal credit cards, if I can't pay for something in cash, then I don't even bother financing it at all, even at 0%. That's because it's still debt and it has to be paid off relatively soon. Yes, I could potentially do some things with that extra cash that I now have on hand, but that kind of thinking is too short term for me, so I don't even bother with it. And then for the last two things to know, we're just gonna quickly touch on them here because there's not that much to explain. Those two things are that some store credit cards can be easier to get approved for, and some store credit cards can only be used at that store. So if you have credit that's not too good, or if you're relatively new to credit, then many store credit cards could be a decent option for you to have better approval odds. But again, just like we talked about before, some of these store credit cards can have higher APRs and lower credit limits, so you want to be aware of that. Those things are just going to be in place partially because they're approving people that may have lower credit scores, so there's going to be some increased risk associated with that. And then you also want to be aware of what version of a store credit card you're applying for. As I look around at different stores, many offer what's called a closed loop credit card that can only be used at that store. But some other companies might offer an open loop credit card that can be used at that one store, but it can also be used elsewhere as well because it might be something like a Visa card, and Visa cards are accepted at other stores. So just do some research and look into what makes the most sense for you and your situation with a closed loop credit card versus an open loop credit card. There might be different approval odds for different types of cards at different stores, but if you get a closed loop credit card, just know it is going to be limiting by only being used at that one store. Now, some final thoughts here for this video. So store credit cards can definitely be dangerous if you're the type of person that can be easily convinced to overspend by using that store credit card, but unfortunately, it's very difficult for a lot of people to admit this to themselves. You'll want to watch out for overspending, and of course, you don't want to get into credit card debt either, but this does happen to far too many people because they're not planning out their spending or at least budgeting in some way. However, I actually do think that there's many situations out there where store credit cards make a lot of sense. If you're spending money at certain places on necessities, or if you're spending money on things that might have a utility to you, then getting a store credit card to save and get discounts on future purchases can be a good thing. I'll make a future video about what I think are the best store credit cards out there right now, but right off the top of my head, as I'm thinking about stores where it might make sense, home improvement stores like Lowe's could be good, Target, Amazon, Walmart, Costco, all these stores could be good to get a store credit card if it makes sense for you. So I have 3 final tips here that I want you to be able to take away from this video. 1, do not open store credit cards impulsively at the cash register. Do some research to see if it'll be worth it for you, and also compare that to other regular credit cards to see if there's a better one out there instead. 2, pay off that credit card balance on time and in full every single month, and treat that credit card like cash. And 3, only get store credit cards at stores that you shop at often, and make sure to use them responsibly. So let me know down in the comment section below if you have any store credit cards, and if you do, what stores are they for? I personally do not have any right now, but I can see the value in those store credit cards for some people out there. And next, I highly recommend that you check out this video over here where I talk about when to pay your credit card bill, because if you understand this, then you can be very successful with both regular credit cards and store credit cards. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.